surveyor for the My Life team here at Gateway. She is now going to present You Can If You Believe, the ability to live on your own. Please welcome Nicole Chalifoux.
Yay! Haven't done this in a while, so I picked up some notes and I'm going to use some of this. Okay. The idea to start living on my own came into my mind in 2011. I remember talking to my coworker, or I remember telling my coworker that I wanted to live on my own. At that time, me and my grandma's relationship was not the best. And it got to a point where it started to become a yelling match. The only way I was in a positive mood, was when I went out to volunteer, work, or go to my activity with my friends. By the end of the day, I always had to go back to grandma's house. I tried to stay in a positive mood when I was at home, but that didn't work. With my relationship at the time toward her, it started to get harder and harder to live there. At one point, I started not to feel safe there. And other than going out, I was becoming a negative and miserable person. Which, if you met me, you know that's not the case. I'm always perky. I would go home and sit in my favorite chair, checking Facebook on my iPad and scrolling the internet, which I do pretty much every night when I lived there, until I came across a site that had apartment listings on it. I was desperate to find my own place, and that I could feel safe again. I was also at the point last year where I wanted to be any place else but back home. So you can just imagine how much fun I had looking at the pictures of apartments, dreaming on how I could decorate the room. I was in my fantasy world. My family was happy for me when I started looking and doing my research. At least they pretended to be. Every time I would try to talk about wanting to move out, they would always say to me, "Do you think you can hold off for another year?" At which my reply was, "I guess I can." Every year since 2011, I asked again and again, but always the same response. It seemed that no matter how hard I would push my family, they wouldn't budge. It took me till 2014 to move out. That 3 years it took to convince my family member that it was time for me to move out. One thing about me is I never give up. I've been faced with many challenges in my life, starting with the fact that I'm deaf in one ear, had a corneal transplant in one of my eyes to stop me from becoming blind, metal rods in my back and screws, 2 rods and 6 screws on both sides of my back. My lung collapsed twice, and the third time I needed the air pocket to be removed from my lungs. So don't underestimate me. I don't give up that easily. Going through my obstacles that I was faced with only made me stronger, and I'm a lot more determined to show people what I can do. I know that there are some things I can't do, but I always seem to succeed in the end. I felt that I wasn't listened to, and that I constantly had to fight to get what I want and where I want. It seemed like a never-ending battle. One day, last year, I was scared because of certain situations that were coming up. My grandma and I were arguing constantly. There was no peace. I finally opened up to my coworker about moving out. I kept talking about it, but that's as far as it went at that point in time. I felt supported when I talked to them because I knew that I was being listened to. Finally, I had enough. And when my auntie was down last year, we talked to Leah about me living on my own. My aunt was on board with the idea. So after our chat with Leah, we went and looked at places for me to live in and that were accessible for me. In April, we found an apartment that was accessible and in a safe neighborhood. We booked a viewing, and the next day we went back and looked at the suite. Guess what? It was so meant for me. I told my aunt that this is my new home. I knew I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. It was so perfect for me. We signed the lease that day, and I just knew that everything would work out. It is done. And after everything was signed, I could see my dream becoming a reality. I waited so long. Everything happened for a reason. I was so happy when I got my keys on May 1st. My aunt and I did all of this before I let my grandma in on what was going on. I kept it from her, not to be mean to her, but I didn't want her to be angry or yelling at me until I moved out. My family supported my decision not to tell her right away, until after everything was done, and that way she couldn't stop me. When May came, I was so happy to be free and on my own. I had to wait until May 4th to move in because my family wanted me to spend a couple extra nights with my grandma, and so did I, because I didn't want her feeling. I was counting down the days until I could sleep in my own place. I was in heaven. There was no one to argue with. It is peaceful knowing that after a long day, I could go home. My home, that is. I don't regret moving out on my own. Actually, I'm thriving more now in 1 year than I did in 5 years. I have way more freedom to do things, like go for walks more. I go to hockey games and concerts with my boyfriend. I'm learning to take the city bus with Danny and my other friends. However, that being said, I still take that in the winter. Pain in the butt. I have been on my own for almost 11 months now, and I'm very capable with my household responsibilities. I love the fact that I can do my own laundry. Get out my garments. I never did my own laundry. I'm now just getting the hang of cooking. Oh, and I can use this stove now and not have to worry about someone hovering over me. I do all of this on my own with no support. That was and still is my choice. I made a few other changes, and they are: I'm not volunteering at Chrysalis anymore. I'm trying to not rely on my walker so much. I joined a regular bowling league, and this year I'm quitting Special Olympics. Sunday is my last day. Best part is that I found and fell in love with a guy that spoiled me, and every day he tells me I'm beautiful and calls me beautiful. It takes a lot of responsibility to make it on your own, but I wouldn't change it for anything. Now, my family supports me being on my own. I'm an independent, strong, capable, and determined woman. If I can give some advice to others that are looking to move out on their own, it is this: be strong, and you will get there. Go for what you want. Dream big. And my personal motto that I live by, what Cindy knows best: never give up. Thank you all for letting me be your guest speaker this evening.